I walked into some of these dealerships, and it's obvious that there are a few Japanese cars just sitting there collecting dust. Nobody's buying them, and honestly, dealers already know they're dead weight. Hello everyone, this is Scott from CarlandTV. It's time to hop in the front seat because today, it's not about the hot sellers or the cars everybody's fighting over. We're talking about 6 Japanese models that folks in the US flat out stopped buying, and I'm going to show you exactly why they're turning into dead stock on dealer lots. But first, do me a quick favor. Tap that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. It ain't required, but those clicks keep this thing rolling and make it easier for me to keep dropping solid car content straight to your screen. Now let's get back into it. Mazda MX-30. The MX-30 never had a chance here. Mazda rolled it out in California only, and even then, they barely shipped any. You're talking just over 300 sold in 2022 and about 100 in 2023 before they yanked it from the lineup. That's not just bad, that's a car nobody even knew existed. And look, I like Mazdas. They usually drive great. But the MX-30 came with a 3.5 kilowatt-hour battery and about 100 miles of range. That's it. In a world where even cheap EVs are pushing 200 plus, this thing looked outdated the second it hit the lot. DC fast charging wasn't much better, topping out around 50 kilowatts, so you're sitting there way too long for a car that already doesn't go far. Dealers knew it too. You can't get folks excited about an EV that costs 30-something grand, can't leave town, and is only sold in one state. Mazda's own move proved it. They killed the MX-30 after 2023 and shifted to plug-in hybrids like the CX-90 and the upcoming CX-70. Those actually make sense here, because you get the electric part without being stranded by weak range. So yeah, the MX-30's dead in the US market. Cool idea, neat doors, but the numbers never added up. That's why you don't see them on the road, and why the dealers aren't missing it one bit. Toyota Mirai. The Toyota Mirai is one of those cars that sounded like a big deal when it first showed up. Hydrogen power, zero emissions, futuristic design. Toyota wanted this thing to be the next Prius moment. The problem is, out here in the US, hydrogen just isn't ready. You can't sell a car, people can't fuel, and that's exactly what happened. I've been to California plenty, and that's the only place you'll even see a Mirai. They kept it boxed into one state because that's where the hydrogen stations are. And even then, half the stations went down, or had lines around the block. And when they did work, the price of hydrogen was insane, more expensive than gas, and that's before fuel shortages shut some owners down for weeks. Imagine dropping new car money and not being able to drive it. That killed any trust people had. The sales prove it. A few years back, Toyota moved a couple of thousand a year. In 2024, barely 500 total. Dealers don't want to touch it. Why keep a car on your lot when you know customers are going to ask, where do I even fill this thing up? It's a dead end before the test drive even starts. And the crazy part is, the Mirai itself isn't bad. Smooth ride, quiet, sharp looks. But the car's fine and the world around it isn't. That's why Toyota's moving back toward hybrids and EVs people can actually use, and why the Mirai's basically a ghost in the US market now. Nissan Maxima. The Maxima used to be the car if you wanted a big Japanese sedan with some guts. Back in the 92nd, it was even nicknamed the 4-door sports car. But times changed. SUVs took over, and Nissan never really gave the Maxima the attention it needed. By the time the 2022 rolled around, most folks forgot it was even on sale. Nissan officially pulled the plug after the 2023 model year, and honestly, you could see it coming years earlier. Sales went from almost 20,000 units in 2020 to just over 7,000 in 2022, and by 2024, fewer than 1,000 were sold nationwide. That's not a sales dip, that's a car bleeding out. Dealers knew it too. Most of them stopped pushing Maximas because customers weren't walking in asking for a full-size sedan with a V6 when they could lease a Rogue or Pathfinder for the same money. It's not that the Maxima was junk. It had a solid 300 horsepower V6, comfy seats, and a sharp design compared to the older generations. But it got trapped in a weird spot. More expensive than an Altima, not nearly as upscale as luxury sedans from Acura, Lexus, or even Toyota's own Avalon before they axed it. So the Maxima sat in this no-man's land where nobody really needed it. Now, Nissan's putting their energy into crossovers, EVs, and hybrids, because that's where the money is. The Maxima name might come back as an EV someday, but as far as the gas sedan, it's done. Dealers know it, buyers moved on, and the once 4-door sports car is basically history in the US. Toyota CHR. The CHR always felt like Toyota trying a little too hard to be cool. When it first showed up in 2017, it had sharp angles, a sloping roof, and those hidden rear door handles that made it look sporty. The problem was that style came at the expense of practicality. Rear visibility was trash, the back seat felt cramped, and the cargo space was weak compared to other small crossovers. In a segment where families just want space and comfort, the CHR never hit the mark. Sales started okay, but they slid fast. Toyota sold around 45,000 units in 2018, but by 2022, that number fell to just over 12,000. In 2023, only a few hundred stragglers moved as leftover inventory, because Toyota had already pulled the plug in the US. Dealers saw the writing on the wall. Nobody was cross-shopping the CHR when the Corolla Cross showed up with better space, more features, and optional all-wheel drive. That was the final nail. It's not that the CHR drove horribly. It handled all right, looked different, and had Toyota's reliability behind it. But Americans don't buy crossovers just to look edgy. They buy them to haul kids, dogs, and groceries. And if a small crossover can't do that better than the competition, it's dead in the water. Toyota kept selling newer versions of the CHR overseas, but they didn't even bother bringing them here. They knew the Corolla Cross was the smarter play for the US market. The CHR's officially gone from America, and dealers aren't missing it one bit. Infiniti Q50. The Q50 should have been Infiniti's bread-and-butter sedan, but instead it turned into a car stuck in limbo. Back when it launched in 2013, it looked sharp, had plenty of power options, and was meant to go head-to-head with the BMW 3 Series, Lexus IS, and Audi A4. The problem is, Infiniti never gave it real updates. More than a decade later, the Q50 you see on dealer lots is basically the same car, while everyone else in the segment keeps moving forward. The sales numbers tell the whole story. In 2015, Infiniti sold over 43,000 Q50 in the US. Fast forward to 2023, and that number was down to about 6,000. By 2024, it slid even lower, and this year it's barely cracking 500 so far. That's not just decline. That's a slow death. Dealers know these things don't move, so they keep inventory tight and focus on SUVs like the QX60 and QX80, which actually sell. Is the Q50 a terrible car? Not really. The twin-turbo V6 still makes solid power, the interior's comfortable, and it's got the bones of a legit luxury sedan. But when your infotainment system feels like it's from the early 2010 second, and your competition is pushing slick new tech, hybrid drivetrains, and better overall refinement, you lose. The buyers noticed, and they walked away. Infiniti's whole lineup has been shifting toward crossovers and SUVs, because that's where the sales are. The Q50 has been left to fade out quietly. Dealers aren't betting on it, customers aren't asking for it, and the numbers prove it's basically dead in the US market. And lastly, Nissan GT-R. This one hurts to say, but the R35 GT-R, the so-called Godzilla, is basically at the end of its road here in the States. When it hit back in 2009, it was a monster. Twin-turbo V6, all-wheel drive, supercar, killing lap times for way less money. Enthusiasts lost their minds. But fast forward 15 years, and the GT-R hasn't really changed much. The price kept climbing, the competition got faster, and Nissan never gave it the full redesign fans were begging for. The sales trail-off tells the truth. Back in its early years, the GT-R moved around 1,500 units a year in the US. By 2023, that number was down to under 400. In 2024, just 265 were sold. This year, barely 3 dozen so far. For a car that once carried Nissan's performance flag, those are ghost numbers. Dealers know it too. Most stores don't even bother keeping one in stock unless they've got a buyer lined up. And it's not because the GT-R suddenly drives badly. It still pulls hard, sounds mean, and turns heads. The problem is, at $120,000 plus, buyers can grab a Porsche 911, Corvette Z06, or even a base McLaren that feels newer, fresher, and in some cases, quicker. The GT-R started as a bargain supercar, but somewhere along the line, it stopped being a bargain. Nissan's already said R35 production is done, which makes this goodbye official. Maybe a next-gen GT-R comes back someday as a hybrid or EV, but right now, the legend's fading out, and US buyers have moved on. Dealers know it, enthusiasts know it. Godzilla's basically gone.